So our topic today is It's Time to Show Up. We continue in our theme, Prove Me Now. So we'll just start with our basic principle, the foundation principle for all life. There's one power, one presence, in, through, and as all creation, and yet not absorbed by that creation. And so that one power and that one presence is infinite and eternal love intelligence of the universe. It is always already. It does not birth. It does not get birth. It does not die. It is always fully present. We can't do anything in our lives to change it, to fix it, to add on to it. That all the love that has ever been is right now in this room and in your heart and in your body and in your soul. You do not have to do anything to make that happen. It just simply is. That's our foundation principle. So the idea of it's time to show up is we can have these understandings of universal truth principles. And my perception is that these universal truth principles that are now, we're understanding not separate from religion. You can find them in religion, but we discover that you can find them in all life. All life contains them. And people are teaching them and learning them all over the planet now in greater numbers than ever before. And now what we have to do is show up and be that love in our life, in the details of our life, in our work life, in our relationships with our family, in our relationships with our friends, with strangers, when we see the news, on social media. It's our job to show up as love. And that doesn't mean we always have to feel that love. It's just a quick reminder, oh, I'm here for love. That's why I'm here. I've got all these things I'm trying to do. I have big dreams. I have all the tasks, the minutia of the day. I have these relationships. I have to do this. I have to do that. And in all of that, in the stress and the anxiety or in the boredom, sometimes we go from one extreme to another. We recognize, oh, but I'm here for love. Oh, but I'm here for love. That's why everyone is here on this planet. That's what this planet is here for, is to reveal love. And just that cognitive reminder, even if it doesn't go straight to your heart, just to remind ourselves shifts immediately. Oh, but no matter what else is happening, the only reason why I'm really here is to become a place of love. It's time to show up in our own life, in every area of our life, as love. We can have all the complexity and the challenges, but we show up as love. So one of my greatest and most inspiring examples for this is a man by the name of Brother Lawrence. He was a lay monk, which means that he was not educated enough. He was very low on the status scale. So he had a vision of God when he was 18 years old, and then just sort of wandered around doing different odd jobs for about 6 years. And then he really wanted to enter the monastery, give his whole life to God. But they wouldn't accept him as a monk because he wasn't educated and he didn't have any skills or talents. So they welcomed him in to work in the kitchen. So he became a lay brother, Brother Lawrence. And in this job, lowest on the totem pole, low in stature, he's in the kitchen, just giving everything he does to God out of love. He said, I pick up a straw, and I pick up and do it for the love of God. I'm in the midst of the kitchen and the noise and the confusion, and yet I'm so immersed in my love of God, it's no different than sitting in front of my altar praying for God. That he's consumed. He shows up for God in everything that he does, in the minutia of the day in and day out. He said for the first 4 years, it was very difficult and very painful. It wasn't like, okay, I have this high ideal and I can just live it. But that's part of it, is just showing up even when what was beautiful about reading his book, I have this book right here. He didn't write a book, but he wrote letters, because what happened was people started coming to him. Here's this guy who works in the kitchen, but people felt the peace around him. They felt this energy around him. So people came to him for healing, for prayer work, to ask about wisdom. And so we have these letters that he wrote. And what I love is that he has such a sense of his own forgiveness, of that he was completely forgiven. So he wasn't bothered. At the end of the night, he said, I would sort of check through the night, and there's how I did through the day. And he said, there's often days where it was awful and painful, but I knew it was forgiven, so I didn't let myself get distracted by that. I knew the next day was fresh. How many of us just beat ourselves up? Well, I didn't do it very well today, so I'll do it some other time. In all the midst of the imperfection, you're forgiven instantly. We start fresh. I'm here for love. I am here for love. At the end of his life, the last sacraments was read to him. And someone asked what was going on in his head. And his reply was, just to give you a sense of the feeling tone of his writing or his speaking, I am doing what I shall do through all eternity, blessing God, praising God, adoring God, giving him the love of my whole heart. It is our one business, my brethren, to worship him, to love him without thought of anything else. We're here to show up as love in every area of our life. At the same time, I recognize that Brother Lawrence had a much simpler life than all of us, that he didn't have a lot of responsibility going on. He didn't have a lot of people depending on him. He didn't have a lot of things to do and ideas running around. I like to think, so how do we deal with the complexity of our being? We're multidimensional beings with a lot of going on. I just read this past week there's a book called Torah Journeys by Rabbi Shefa Gold. And she gave an interpretation of the Tower of Babel falling. And what I loved about it is it gave a sense that we're here not for it to be simple. She said that in that sole purpose of knowing God, there was also the rigidity. They all knew the same language. Everyone was the same. And so the tower had to fall to open up to the rainbow journey of diversity, she said. And that it became, what it was all the different languages. Life is supposed to be complex. And that we are actually supposed to have an experience of all the shades of the rainbow, to experience all the diversity and the confounding perplexity of paradox. I love that. That we live these beautifully complex lives, and it's supposed to be that way. And that's what we have to understand, is that we have these ideals of, I would love to maybe go off and just know God and have it be a simple life. But actually our life is supposed to be this beautiful diversity and complexity, and to open our hearts to all of it so there's no walls. Because what that external complexity mirrors is the complexity within our own hearts. And so we're allowing all those walls within us to dissolve over and over and over to experience this oneness, of love. And it's not about perfection either. I find that often people say, well, I need to do this before I can really open to love, or I need to change something externally or even internally. It's in the midst of all the imperfection we remember love. In all of our imperfection, we remember love. So I'm inspired by another person, Eddie Hillesman. Has anyone heard of Eddie Hillesman? Anyone here? She has it's a journal. These are her journals. She was born in 1914 in the Netherlands, and she was Jewish, and she had a lot of depression. So she started working with a Jungian therapist and really began going into the depths of her soul, doing her inner work to find where that love was in the midst of all that darkness and sadness. And she was very vigilant. She's very precise in her writing, and shares about all of this and her changes and her shifts in consciousness. And then her family, I'm going to have to find the page now. And then her family is being sent off into the camp. And because of a position she held, she was told, you don't have to go with them. And she said, no, this is my people. I am going with my people, and I'm here to serve them even in the darkest places. I'm not here to escape the complexity and the challenge and the pain of life. I'm here to go into the darkness. She'd gone into the darkness of her own interior life, and now she was willing to courageously go into that darkness of her family, of what was happening in Nazi Germany in the 1930s and 40s. So she goes, and she sees this incredible pain. And she writes about it. She doesn't live with her eyes shut. She's not pretending it's not happening. She can't. It's terrible. And she writes about it and sees it, but at the same time she keeps saying it's all mirroring what's in her. So she kept going back within her and doing the work. And she would say, people don't realize that this is only temporary. This is pain that will drop away. And so here. I wanted to give a sense of what she wrote. Oh, here we go. I'm going to turn right to it. She says, if you don't have the inner strength while you're here to understand that all outer appearances are a passing show, as nothing beside the great splendor in us, then things can look very black here indeed, completely wretched. Those poor abandoned children whose parents have been sent on transport and who are ignored by the other mothers, they have worries enough with their own brood, What with the diarrhea and all the other complaints, big and small, you should see these poor mothers sitting beside the cots of their wailing young in blank and brute despair. So here she is surrounded and doing whatever she can to be of service and to give tenderness. And at the same time, she writes this. You have made me so rich, O God. Please let me share out your beauty with open hands. My life has become an uninterrupted dialogue with you, O God, one great dialogue. Sometimes when I stand in some corner of the camp, my feet planted on your earth, my eyes raised towards your heaven, tears sometimes run down my face, tears of deep emotion and gratitude. At night, too, when I lie in my bed and rest in you, O God, tears of gratitude run down my face, and that is my prayer. Even in the midst of a concentration camp, by continually giving herself to the love within her and allowing herself to feel that love, she could be a place of love for everybody else in the midst of hell. She said Dante's Inferno was nothing like what she was experiencing. She did die in Auschwitz in 1943. It's an interrupted life. I'll have these books here. That's why we are here, is to show up, no matter what the circumstances of our life. The theme is prove me now. We are here to prove that love is an actual reality, that as Paul Coelho said, it's stronger than anything else that is happening in this planet, but not just in theory, it's happening through us. And so I have an invitation for all of us this week, and I expect all of you to take me up on it. I'd like you to think about a way or ways that you can show up in your life in a way that you haven't before, whether it's with family members, with work in a project you're working on, or with colleagues, somewhere in your life to show up and say, I'm a place of love. I'm going to express love in a way and be bold in it. It takes risk sometimes to actually own that I'm a place of love in front of other people. So one way that can look, and it just happened spontaneously yesterday, was we were at the Julian's football game yesterday, and his team won. And so our team was all happy. And then there was parents from the other team, and there was one parent, and she was just really irritated. And she said, you know, this is the only sport I've been to where the parents of both teams have to share one side. She goes, that's just not right. We should be on different sides. And so she was clearly irritated by the joy of the other team. And so I just said to her, I look at this as a great opportunity. We're here to love our enemies, so that's what we're practicing. And in a second, she just stopped and she goes, yes, that's what I'm about. Thank you. Thank you. It's just a quick reminder why we're here. We're here to love our enemies outwardly and inwardly. When we just say it out loud to other people, it may sound funny, and yet people meet us there because we're all made in the image and likeness of pure love. And when we remind someone of that, who doesn't resonate? If we use God or spirit, people then have their stuff. But love doesn't have the borders. It doesn't have those walls. I'm here to love. I'm at this job because I'm here to be an expression of love. Underneath everything else, I'm here to express love and to find the love within you and my family and my friends, with strangers on the street. So back to my invitation. So to come up with a way to ways that you are expressing love in your everyday life. So you're showing up as love. Because we have and then what gets to me about this is, in our world today, we have a lot of experts, spiritual experts. But what we need are people like Eddie and Brother Lawrence. They weren't experts. Nobody knew them. But they were living it so powerfully in their life. So I want to hear from you. So by the end of this week, I want my emails on the front of the program. I hope every single one of you emails me. Now I will probably use some of them for service, so you have to recognize. But that's part of it. You have to be seen. It's time to show up. It's time to be seen for the beautiful, loving, unique expression of God that you are. So send me a story, an incident, a way you're showing up as love in your life, and then we'll start sharing them in service to say, this is how we get inspired when we hear other people. That's why we love classes, is because we get to hear other, like Jack. He gets irritated because I drink like half a glass of milk and then I just leave it out all the time. So he finds like glasses of milk, and then Julian leaves stuff around, and he likes order, so it really irritates him. So what he told me he does, he just told me this past week. He goes, well, now every time I pick up after you, I just say, I love you, Harriet. I love you, Harriet. And he says to Julian, I love you, Julian. And then he came, and then it happened after he told me, and I just started, then it brought humor, because then he's like, I love you, Harriet. Just those little things showing up as love in our life, in the small and the big things. So how many of you are going to actually, like, not just pretend? Who's going to really send me an email of how you're showing up as love? I can't wait to receive them all. Thank you. I can't wait to receive them all and share them.